Hey everyone, Sam Quinton with Sinopa Publishing right here in Frankfort, Kentucky. This is going to be a little bit of a different video because I have notes. And the reason I have notes is we have math. And since I only have one screen, I can't use the second one to display. So bear with me. I'll be looking up and down as I consult this. Okay, so let me get that out of the way as it continues to beep incessantly. What we are talking about today and what I want to go over is looking at some figures I've come up with, looking at going through massive indies for distribution through Lunar distribution. Now, I am getting the information we have here for this video from an article by Rich Johnson on Bleeding Cool. I have not yet been able to have a discussion with Massive myself. I have some key information I'd like to ask with regard to shipping protocols, things like that, timetables for pay and everything. There are a few assumptions in the numbers I'm going to go over that may not be correct, okay? So, for example, in Johnson's article, he says that the retailer discount is between 50 and 60%. I don't know if that's the actual factual calculation. So, for ease of the math and to help keep hope alive, we're going to use a 50% retailer discount as our baseline. For our shelf cost, we're going to use a flat retail price of $5. Now, I know that's kind of high. Everyone thinks that $5 is kind of high, but the reality of the current market, print run sizes and such, are going to make things a little bit clearer why we're going to use that as we go on. With this, we are, of course, counting the fact that the initial outlay is the $500 to Massive for the listing. That is an advance on their sub-distributor's portion of 15%, which apparently, according to this line item, Lunar's own distribution fee is paid by Massive. I don't know exactly what that means, if that 15% actually covers it in total, or if you have to transmit that money to Massive to be distributed to Lunar. So, what I have done is I have used in the calculations $5 retail shelf price, 50% off for the retailer for their wholesale rate, and an additional 15% off to encompass the totality of the distribution fees, which again may or may not be correct. So stick with me on this one because there's a lot of speculation. When you take that 65% out of $5, you have 35% left. 35% of $5 is $1.75, which is what you would be seeing for the books that are ordered and distributed. Now that by itself creates certain thresholds, and that is in regard to the print size. Now, what I am going to go over real quick with you is I got some quotes today from my printer, and I'm sorry that I'm not great about editing or anything, or I would just stick this in there in a nice little graph for you, but I'm going to do this way. Now, these calculations that I'm about to read off, these are for the printing and the shipping combined for this size of an order, printed through my printer here in the United States and sent directly to Lunar's warehouse in Indiana. I got that address from someone I know. I guess is a good way to put it, and we'll just leave it at that. So, Lunar guys, I'm not going to dox your location or anything. I'm not even going to provide your zip code. I just want to make sure that people understand that we have the data to establish where we're shipping to so that we can get accurate shipping costs. Now, These printing costs do not include production cost of the work. This is just printing and shipping to the location. The timetable from my printer getting to Lunar is 16 days for orders up to and including 25,000 copies, which is where I cut off because honestly, I didn't want to get even more pie in the sky. A lot of image titles don't reach 25,000. A lot of image titles don't reach 15 or 10. But 25 is a good benchmark for successful indie comics. They're doing pretty well, and we're going to hope that everyone eventually reaches success, but we have to also be realistic and start with print run volumes that are more in the vein that we see. So I'm going to start this list with a 2,000 comic press run, and the reason I did that is the basically the floor level where you could really get in and start seeing a return on your books based on your distribution. The reason I say that is, again, we're looking at $1.75 from the assumptions that we're making. And I want to be very clear about this again, guys. These are assumptions based on the information in the article. Again, I don't have the word from Lunar. But assuming that that is as it is, and that $1.75 per comic sold is the return, I started it with a 2,000 comic press run. For those of you who are thinking, well, I'll just pick it up at the printer and then drive it there myself, more power to you. I'm not factoring that in because that's gas, time, and all that. That's too much of a hassle. I will tell you that 2,000 comics is 336 pounds. So I've got the weight. So if you think you can do better, there you go. If you're going to have it shipped to you and then shipped to Lunar, I don't recommend that because you're paying multiple shipping fees. So I've only got this to Lunar. All right, enough of the disclaimers. So this comic is based on a 24-page comic, only one cover, no variants, no special features like no holochrome finishes, no foils, nothing like that. One comic, one cover, and on really a more industry standard paper stock. My particular printer only goes down to certain quality levels, so we're staying with the same paper stock I use normally, which is an 80-pound weight silk finish, and then a 100-pound stock cardstock cover that has no specialty fine touch finish like I usually use. So this is basically still a high-quality book for mass release, but not something that you'd see from like a Sonoma Kickstarter campaign, right? We use like a heavier stock cover and have some other stuff. Okay, now to the numbers. 2,000 comics would cost you, from today's rate, today being February 8th, $2,900. So order put in, shipped out, you are then out of pocket that much money plus the $500 you're advancing oh my goodness, pardon me, I just the guys at Massive. So basically $3,400 out of pocket. You'll get the $500 back in the recovery on that. So just keep that in mind. The second tier I looked at print runs was 3,000 comics. That's, by the way, 2,000 comics is $1.45 per unit. All of these numbers, as far as the print runs, are rounded up to the next 100. All of the price per units are rounded up to the cent, so that everyone can do their own due diligence, check their math. 3,000 comics, 573 pounds for those of you who want to do it yourself. 3,000 comics, $3,700. That's $1.24 each, so your margins do get better at that point. 4,000 and 5,000 comics, basically both rounded up to $1 each. That's a kind of a plateau point in offset. 4,000 comics was 764 pounds, $4,000. 5,000 was 954 pounds, $5,000. And again, these rates do include shipping to the destination, so keep that in mind. At 6,000 comics, That came in at $5,700. It's 95 cents a piece. The curve on our economy of scale is starting to improve a bit on this, and that's 1,145 pounds. I'm not going to read like every with 1,000 increments. We're going to skip up a couple real quick, and we're going to go to 10,000 copies. Now, 10,000 units is a rare comic in the current market, but just keep that in mind. Price to have it shipped, printed and shipped, $8,200, which is 82 cents each, and that's basically a net off your $1.75 price coming to you of 93 cents. Again, 1,910 pounds for something really, really successful and doing strong image numbers. 15,000 copies. You're looking at 2,862 pounds, $10,600 in printing cost, again, plus the $500 on top of that you'd lay out that you're going to recover eventually. That's 71 cents each. And then we're going to cut this off at 25,000. That's 4,710 pounds. So you're going to need a cargo vehicle definitely at that point, or flatbed truck or box truck or something if you're doing it yourself. That's 15,600, and that's 63 cents each. Okay, so we know what our print costs are, but that doesn't really help us too much. So one of the reasons I did this is I wanted to bring some attention to some rough numbers using our current assumptions as to what this means for creators. Okay, so for the creators, what we're looking at is what your minimum order volume needs to basically break even on your printing and shipping costs, right? So with 2,000, if you have a 2,000 comic book order, right, your break even point on that is on orders for the book that are 1,660 issues ordered. You then have your 5 comic comps that they want. I don't know why. And then your overage of 83 books, which means that you're shipping 1,748 units to Lunar. That leaves you with 252 books that could be still sold at 2,000 units and lower, or if you have it coming to you or what have you. But that's your break even. You're looking at 1,700 and basically 1,750 books that are going to Lunar on 1,660 copies, so that you have your print run paid for. I've got some thoughts on what this means for our creators later on, so stick with me. 3,000 comics printed. Again, $3,700. The minimum break even on that print run and shipping is 2,115. 5 comps, 106 comics for the overage. That's 226 books going to Lunar, with 774 left over. The reason I bring up the leftover, guys, is that these leftover books, if you are having them shipped to you instead of to Lunar, and you're doing conventions and such, and you're selling them at like $5 a piece, well, I mean, 700 books is $3,500 in cash down the line. Just kind of keep that in mind, right? If you're selling at $5 a piece, right? 4,000 comics, again, that's at that $1 kind of plateau level. That's 4,000 books. The break even on that is 2,286. So you could really, honestly, get away with like another 3,000 copy press run on this, and make it work just fine. But with 4,000, you break even at that point, and you have 1,594 books left over. And if you're selling books at cons and such, that's a significant revenue. 5,000 books, the break-even point is 2,858. The breakdown that you get the 5 comp copies, 143 for your overage, 3,006 copies in total going to Lunar, leaving 1,994 left over. Again, this is something that you could do with a 3,400 something, 3,300, somewhere around there, press run order, and or just actually order 3,006 and make a little extra money on the top of it, but that money on that's going to be pretty small. Um, and again, at 5,000, that leaves you with 1,994. And then the last one is 6,000 comics, $5,700. Need 3,258 to break even on the revenue from distribution, and then you have an extra 5 comics for the comps, 163 for the overage. That leaves you with 2,574 left over after you ship to Lunar. Now, all of these numbers that we've given here have not taken into account the production cost of the book, right? So you could look at these as like numbers for artists who are just doing all the work themselves, or for people who have already successfully funded the book through crowdfunding or self-funded or whatever, and then this is what they're looking at. But for folks like me who don't really draw and letter, and people who are hiring other folks, I have a little behind the curtain stuff here. So for a 24 page floppy with one cover, I'm paying $7,000 in production costs to my teams, and we're actually looking to move that rate up this year if we can get the sales volumes to support it. So hopefully you guys are going to support our projects. With that, I ran a bunch of numbers. I went and I decided to pick one of the particular tiers we'd already established for printing to see where it is that it kind of breaks even. And that break-even point, after doing all the math, came to 10,000 copies, which was actually lower than I had previously calculated, which was a pleasant surprise. But at 10,000 copies with $8,200 in printing and shipping, $7,000 in production costs, again, the same assumption of $5 cover price and $1.75 on the cover. You need 8,686 copies sold to break even on that book at that press run level. And then another 5 copies for comps, 435 for your overages, making 9,126 going to Lunar, leaving you with 874 copies remaining. So, you can certainly see revenue, see profit at 9,000 units or so if you are the writer and you're not doing any of the creation work yourself. That 874 books left over at $5 a piece is, of course, $4,000. So, well, 4,000 and change, whatever, if you're selling them at $5. And by that, I mean like convention appearances and things like that. The numbers change dramatically if the retailer discount is 60% instead of 50%. Do keep that in mind. If you are having higher sales volumes, you can actually lower your price point for your customer if you want. Whether you think that's a good idea or not, let your own business acumen be your judge. If you've got people, who are, complaining about the price month after month after month, and it's, thousands of people doing so instead of, tens and dozens, then yeah, I mean, if that's something that you think you can swing financially, that's fine. But that's what the numbers look like based on the presumptions that we've made. Now, these presumptions were not meant to lead anyone into particular action. As always, do your own research on this. I am going to link the article by Rich Johnson in the space below. So the different social media channels that get this, you'll have different ways to read that. It's from Wednesday, February 5th, 2025. And it was an interesting read. There, under what points that he's outlined, and again, I'm only going by his article, there is some space to make this happen. Um, I don't want to be overly optimistic. For full disclosure, the initial orders for Tibby and her time traveling psychedelic mushrooms, which is the only book of mine that's gone to the direct market, and that was through Anarch Press. We had a total of 1,500 copies ordered. I don't have the reorder numbers yet. That's probably part of the Diamond Chaos. I'm going to reach out to AP and see if they have those yet. But there are a lot of comics out there that don't sell 5,000 copies. And this kind of gets into like the second part that I want to talk about with this video. With 2,000 or fewer, and some people are saying as little as 1,300, 1,500 comic shops in North America, it is really difficult to have a new independent comic do numbers around 5,000 or higher. That's really hard. You've got to have a great sales pitch in your whatever catalog you're appearing in. You need people to hear about it, to be interested in it. And after your first issue and your second issue and every issue, you really have to deliver on the quality, and you have to keep a story or stories that are interesting to people that they want to come back and get more. 10,000 comics is a big ask. A big ask. So I don't want folks to dive in with unrealistic expectations. Oh, my comic's the best. It's the best thing ever. It'll sell 100,000 comics. Great. I hope it does. But the reality of it is that's not likely. That's really not likely until you're looking at Batman or some others. I want you, all of you, all the writers, all the artists, I want you to be able and comfortable in exercising your creativity. I want you to be healthy, both mentally, physically, and financially. And let's face it, especially if you're in the US, Canada, Mexico, financial health really does contribute a lot towards other aspects of your health, because it's hard to have strong mental health when you're starving. When you don't know if you're going to be able to pay your rent. That's difficult to say the least. So I wanted to go ahead and do these numbers, see if that could help even one of you with your own analysis as to what your plans are for distribution. Now, I am not 100% convinced that Diamond is going to fail. I think it's likely that they'll fail in bankruptcy. There are a lot of people who are looking at it. There are a lot of articles on that, and we might do a video on that later when there's some more information. But for the meantime, for those of you who are considering utilizing your distribution to the mainstream market on Massive through Lunar, this is the information that I have. Now, I'm sure that there's going to be some comments on this somewhere about how I'm wrong on one thing or the other. I welcome those. Please, by all means, fact check the hell out of this, because I'm basing these numbers on Rich's information from Bleeding Cool. He's been doing some pretty good work lately on covering the Diamond distribution bankruptcy, and then looks like he's picking up a little bit on this issue with Massive. I think it will probably see other distribution sources being brought to light. Comic mainstream distribution has been distributing for me on spinner racks and on shelves in gas stations and marijuana dispensaries and liquor stores and comic shops for a couple of years now. Now, we're not seeing hundreds and hundreds of book sales a month, but I mean, every month I see sales. And we have a a pretty good relationship. I've been very, very satisfied with the work Adam and his team have done. So there are other distributors out there. Your mileage may vary. So do your due diligence, do your homework, ask people who have utilized whichever service you're looking at. Get the best information that you can obtain, the most accurate, and get things from the horse's mouth, not just the distributor, but also people who are distributing through them, and see what their experience has been like. Talk to retailers, ask them what the service from that particular distributor has looked like. And for the love of all that's holy, check your math. Make sure that your printer can handle the volume that you're looking at moving. Look at shipping. And just be careful out there. I hope that you all succeed brilliantly. And I hope that you like what we do. Real quick plug. We've got a Kickstarter coming soon. I will not have the link in this video because we are not ready to show it off yet. But probably in the next video. Okay. Pre-launch. Actually, the pre-launch page is up. I'll put the pre-launch page down below, and we'll show that off. You can follow that until launch, and we've got images of the first 2 covers, both the safe for work and a censored version of the not safe for work on that pre-launch page. So I guess that'll do well too. All right. Until next time, Sam Quinton with Sinopa Publishing, right here in Frankfort, Kentucky. I like how that worked. That was kind of cool. And I hope I'll hear from you in the comments below. Oh, and please do share this around to your other creator friends. Maybe this will help them. All right? Thank you very much.